Hey guys, welcome into Sports Around the Bar. We got a lot to talk about today. The NFL is almost back, man, Drew. It's so close. I can almost taste it, and obviously we're frozen. It's not working. I'm glad you guys are here. We have a lot to go through. I'm glad I started our recording like an idiot. I didn't, but now it's going.
Hey, welcome back to Sports Around the Bar.
If you're listening on podcast, whether it's Spotify, iTunes, see I got the plug in there.
Hey.
Google Play, iHeart, doesn't matter. You missed the first 8 seconds because I was too dumb to start the thing.
It was the most important part of this show. All right, guys, that's it for Sports Around the Bar. No, I'm just kidding.
And if you're here from Facebook, guys, we love to see you here. Twitter, YouTube, good to see you guys as well. We're growing, Drew. We're branching out. We've got a lot of football to talk.
I'm going to put my big boy pants on now.
Exactly. We are now officially in the arena. Welcome into the show, guys. Today, we have Zeke getting his new contract talks. It's developing as we speak. I'm hoping we're going to see that notification come up that says Zeke's going to sign that 7-year contract with the rumors out there. Yikes, Cowboys fans.
I need him too for my fantasy team as well.
We're also going to talk about Melvin Gordon because everyone's talking about Zeke this, Zeke that. What about Melvin Gordon and the Chargers, who are now 4 or 5 days away from playing their first game and don't have their star running back? We're going to talk about what that means for him, what that means for you in fantasy, as well as what it means for the Chargers, as well as the Laremy Tunsil trade. We haven't crapped on the Houston Texans yet. We're going to crap on them later, or at least I am. I don't know where Drew stands on this. And we're also going to talk about our fantasy football love and hate for the first week. If you have any questions about who you need to go with or what you think your strategy should be, we're going to go into guys we love. We're going to go into guys we hate. We're also going to take questions from you and see who you like, and we'll tell you our thoughts on where they stand for week 1.
Definitely more love.
And finally, Drew, I know you've been waiting, man. We have our first prediction for the season.
Well,
we're going to get every game this year.
Well, when I'm the conquering champion of, picking the teams that win,
I have to redeem myself.
It's hard not to be excited about this.
I have to redeem myself. If you don't know,
maybe some of my talent of picking who's going to win or not might rub off on you.
So you win. Now you get to interrupt me for a year. That's how it works.
Yeah, I don't know if you knew that.
Okay.
Ian, what's going on, man? Glad you could join us. James is shooting right to the questions already. Will, it's good to see you as well. James says, what do you all think about Clowney going to the Seahawks? And Will wants to discuss Melvin Gordon. Man, we're getting right into it quick. Scott, good to see you too, man.
The Seahawks pulled off a heist. This is why you want to have a general manager, so you don't give away your players like Jadeveon Clowney for a third-round pick, even though he was holding out. I get it. They got some value out of him. They still gave him up for a third when you saw someone like Khalil Mack go for a first, even though he was holding out. I'm not saying he's the same player, but you should have looked for similar value from any team that you're trading him for. I get it. He kind of tied their hands a little bit because he said, I'm not going to the Dolphins. Maybe the Dolphins would have made that a little bit more even of a trade for the Tunsil thing we're going to talk about here. Regardless, you need to get more out of Jadeveon Clowney or let him sit. You can't have this persona that we can be ripped off as a team because it'll make it hard for you to trade with anyone in the future because they're going to know I can either rip them off or just wait and not take the deal.
Oh, man.
Your thoughts on Clowney?
No, well, if you remember, I said that. I said, what if he goes to Seattle? Should Seattle fans, Zach can help me out here, should they be upset? I mean, you let Frank Clark go, and then you go off and you bring in Clowney. Is Clowney that much better than Frank Clark?
I'd say they're probably similar talents. Frank Clark's probably a little bit better of a pass rusher, and that has more value in today's game, but you're getting an absolute edge defender from the running standpoint with Jadeveon Clowney. He's a guy that can lead you, and for what you pay, you're probably going to pay to keep him. I think this is the right move, especially when you talk about Frank Clark going to the Chiefs for, what was it, first-round pick?
Yeah.
You're getting a first round, even though it's probably going to be towards the bottom. I'm pretty sure it was a first. They got a second for D Ford, and they gave up the first, and I was complaining about that, if you remember. You're getting a guy that's pretty similar in talent that you just swapped a first for a third for. So you're moving up almost 60 picks in the draft, probably 45 when it's all said and done because Houston's likely to be okay. You know the Chiefs are probably going to be good. You're probably moving up about 45 picks, and you're getting a similar talent. Seahawks killed it, man. This is why the Seahawks are a good team. And this is why, again, like Houston's going to find out here in the next couple of years, you want to have a GM and somebody who's not going to go get bullied by these guys who know what they're doing.
Zeka says he'll bring something new. He'll bring energy, and he's still young. Well, so is Frank Clark.
Right. And I think they're similar guys. This will be the first time we're seeing Jadeveon Clowney when he's not playing it with a star-studded cast up front. So the question is going to be, can he be the man? Does he get better? Sometimes we see those guys get better when you're the guy leading the charge. Sometimes they get worse. So there's a little bit of risk, but I think that's okay.
Absolutely. Austin says, Clowney of the Hawks, it just got serious in Seattle. I mean, this is honestly what they're missing. When they let Frank Clark go, it was, man, who's going to rush the passer? Because that whole division, including now the Cardinals are all passing the ball. They need
Right.
to be getting after that quarterback, and letting Clark go was a huge loss. But bringing in Clowney, it is just a mirror image of each other almost.
And more importantly, before that, the bet was we're going to roll the dice on 31-year-old Ziggy Ansah, who just got hurt all year last year. Detroit decided, hey, he's not worth paying at all. We'll just let him walk for free. Now all of a sudden you've got Ansah in the waiting in the wings that might be a decent player, and you have Jadeveon Clowney, who is probably going to be pretty good. This is, like I said, masterstroke by Seattle. That's why they're a good team.
Yeah. James says Clowney is better on the run. Also, only cost $8 million, where Clark was going to run for like $17 million a year. Yes.
Amen.
But Clowney's going to want a deal after that.
Yes.
And it's going to be up there near 17. So,
Well, that's the thing. Can you convince him to sign for the right price? But even if you don't, even if you give him the mega deal, right? He's still young enough that you can get away with it, and on top of it, you just swapped picks to get better. You can go draft another replacement. I'm okay with this. If I would have been less okay if they would have just paid Frank Clark a huge money and said this is what we're stuck with. Instead, you're getting value in the draft.
Right, absolutely. I want to get to some of these other comments. Chris, it's always good to see you. Chris Crossley said Trent Williams for Gordon straight up. I think that's a little bit of dreaming there, but
Trent Williams already said he's not going anywhere. He's not going to play for any team that trades him. I think Trent Williams is going to be stuck. If anything, I think that's who the Houston Texans should have targeted, although supposedly they weren't interested.
yeah.
So I think Houston was... I get it. You're getting the young player in Tunsil, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I think, again, you'd be better off giving up like a 4th or a 5th round pick to bring in somebody that's that talented, even if it's just for a year or two, protect Deshaun Watson, and then just go find another one. Whether you pay him in free agency or you spend one of the few draft picks you have left, they'd be much better off if they had both of those first and a second hanging around. I know they got Kenny Stills in the mix, but come on.
Yeah. Ian says, how about those Kansas City Chiefs? I'm assuming he's talking about bringing in McCoy. Kills everyone's fantasy draft when they drafted Damian Williams, huh?
I'm worried, but I'm not too worried about it. You're getting the younger player in Damian Williams, a guy who hasn't been healthy in LaShawn McCoy. It's a wait and see. Obviously, they're rolling the dice saying, hey, if we get a healthy LaShawn McCoy and we get one more year out of him, we could be one of the best teams in football, if not the best. I love this move by Kansas City. I like them getting value out of Carlos Hyde. Again, Houston, what are you doing? Trading for a guy that nobody has wanted? I get it. They were in panic mode, and they said, we need a running back, but this is... He might have got cut. The Chiefs might have cut him once they got this McCoy deal. They might have released Carlos Hyde, and you could have picked him up for nothing. Instead, you're sending another pick away. So... Again, Houston is getting absolutely murdered by not having a GM acting in place. This is why you don't make decisions by committee.
We discussed it in the last episode. It's definitely a huge issue not to have a GM. I mean, it's just those guys do that for a living. And, you know, if it's the owner, if it's the coaches, if it's the personnel director, whoever it is doing this, they're not the same kind of people. They don't have the same kind of insight that these GMs do. It's a close-knit community. That's why you see a lot of these guys repeat in different places. It's an issue. Scott says he can't believe he's holding out now after all the bad seasons. They're getting pretty good now. I assume he's talking about Melvin Gordon. He might be talking about Zeke. I'm not 100%
I think he's talking Melvin Gordon here, but the thing about Melvin Gordon, and Will wanted to talk about this too, so I think it's good that we move and talk about Melvin Gordon here a little bit. If you're a running back, you're one hit away, and I know everybody's one hit away.
Right.
But everybody's not taking 300 hits a year.
Right.
If you're taking 300 hits a year and you have value, I don't blame these guys for saying, we gotta come up with some way that I'm gonna make money in this short span. Look at Carlos Hyde, a guy who went from being pretty good and pretty respected at the running back position to all of a sudden being worth almost nothing. So when you're someone like Melvin Gordon or you're Zeke, they're worried they're going to turn into Todd Gurley and have that bad injury. And then you turn into another running back that can't get the job done, and you never make money and put your body on the line. It's the most physical position and the least paid one in football. I get it. The talent, it doesn't take the same level of talent to succeed at running back that it does in a lot of these other positions. It's great when you have the talent, but you don't necessarily need to be the best running back to succeed. And I've talked about this before. You can be in a good system, and it can work out with just average to below average running backs. If you're an above average running back, I understand why they want to be paid. Even though we respect the guys that say, I just want to win.
Right, and he was talking about Gordon. I just want to make sure that everyone understands is the playing of the lifespan that these guys play is so short that I don't blame any one of these guys, including Le'Veon Bell, who sat out for a whole year, and if it's Melvin Gordon who's going to sit out for another whole year, I don't blame them at all. I think lowers the value of the NFL game that we love to watch. I want every talented player out there playing as much as possible. So when we didn't get to see Le'Veon Bell play last year, it was, in my opinion, a letdown.
Yeah.
I prefer, as a Chiefs fan, to beat the Steelers when they're full power instead of half power. But I don't blame any of these guys. And I think this is an issue with the NFL, and that maybe some of these things need to change per position in payment to these guys, especially in their rookie contracts. Maybe those first-round running backs that you want to take, maybe make their contract a little bit more juicier so that they're not sitting there holding out. Because I also agree on the other perspective where it's like, man, you signed this contract. You chose to do this.
If they negotiated legitimately in the NFL, I'd say, yeah, you're 100% right. But they don't, right?
But I
you
can't
get drafted.
I
and
can't
it's
go
like,
to my job and say, you're not paying me enough,
well,
so I'm going to hold off.
Here's the thing, though. You have the choice to go out for another job. There's one NFL. And for the first 4 years of your contract, you don't get to really negotiate a whole lot on money. It's pretty much set in stone. Here's what pick 8, if it's a running back, makes. There's not a whole lot of wiggle room. The only thing you're arguing about is a little bit of contract language, what's called offset language. We won't go into that. That's usually the biggest thing. You're not sitting there saying, I'm not taking this $8 million contract. I want 12 instead. You don't get to say that.
Well, that's where they're going to have to open up the rookie contract issue, because they cannot sit there and negotiate like that. They can negotiate on like how much money is guaranteed.
But if you're the NFL and you're the owner, you don't want to raise that, because what if you get Trent Richardson? What if you get a bust? You don't want them to sit there and just put a stranglehold
in your
team.
But that is part of the game, though. That's part of the whole business, is to sit there and take chances on some of these players.
What I would do if I wanted to solve the running back holdout issue is I would up the running back money from that first contract by 20, 30, 40%. But I would also, in the next collective bargaining agreement, come out and say, you are not going to be able to hold out and have it count as one of your contract years. If you're under contract and you don't show up, it does not count towards the year under the contract, whether you're active or not. I would say the only way that counts is if you're active and on the team's active roster, or healthy enough to be on the team's active roster. I realize that opens it up. You'd have to get real creative with your rules so teams aren't like, oh no, Melvin Gordon can't play this year, so I get another year on his contract. You need to be careful with how you word it, but I would make it where holding out all of a sudden doesn't make your contract expire. And up until now, we haven't really seen it do that. Le'Veon Bell is kind of the odd man out because it was a franchise tag, and he never signed the franchise tag. I would make it where if that's what you want to do, make it where they don't have an option where they can just hold out and wait it out instead of coming back to play for the team.
I mean, they really do. They sit there and they charge them in a sense, like each game you miss.
And no player ever pays those fines.
Right.
None of them. Because
which is an issue, which is something maybe they need to get rid of or change.
Well, here's the thing. If you don't ever want to be the team that charges somebody, because you need to sign free agents, and you don't want those free agents saying, regardless of how they felt about Le'Veon Bell, they charged him a lot of money. Maybe I don't want to play with this franchise. I want to play with a franchise that's like, don't worry about it.
But then again, this is business.
It's business, for sure.
And they need to understand when they sign that contract, they're held responsible for that contract and the years of business in that contract.
Sure, but these teams are looking to get any edge they can on each other. And if you're the Rams and you're like, we don't charge our players fines. We would never fine a player, even though on paper we could. We would never do that. And then the other team's taking the hard-nosed stance. That could be the tipping point. I think all 32 of these teams...
I'm going to say something crazy, and I do believe this is completely crazy. I mean, that's the NFL takes care of that. Maybe Roger Goodell gets another little power put into his palm.
That's not what we need.
And he's the one that decides that thing. I mean, there is an issue here. I want to get to Zeke has a comment. He says average career is less than 4 years is what he believes.
It's 2.5.
Actually, it's less than that. Yeah,
it's 2.5 for running backs in the NFL.
It's actually less than
it's like 2.34, I think, or something like that. Years in the NFL.
It's something really low.
It takes into account a lot of guys that are like the third, fourth, fifth guy and don't really get the chance, but still. Regardless, even if you're talking about starters who play for an entire career, you're talking about a much shorter career and a much less effective career than you are at every position in the NFL.
Yeah. And that's where we're talking about only holdouts of running backs and maybe increasing their rookie contract a little bit more money. And maybe this is not the right option, because also the NFL is turning a whole nother leaf, a new page in the era of the NFL where running is almost cliche. It's passing the ball that matters.
It's almost it's not in the lead, but there are teams. Look at Seattle last year, the Cowboys last year.
And I'm not saying
you can still win.
The Ravens.
I think a lot. It's really tough to have that
your
team.
Titans.
Well, we didn't make it, but I'm counting teams that made it. it's really tough to build a team that only throws the ball to get to the playoffs, because usually you're paying the quarterback big-time money if he throws that much. Usually you're paying some receivers some big-time money. Usually a lot of teams look like Green Bay, where they have a couple weapons and the rest of the team stinks, and it's really, really tough to be good with that kind of setup. So
Right.
credit to the Chiefs for getting it done like that.
So Cody says if negotiation started for players, there would be no back taken in the first round draft. Cody, I disagree completely with you, man, because you're still going to have those top tier talent. That's what first round talent is all about. It's those automatic starters, those players that are going to play from week one all the way for the rest of their career. People like Saquon Barkley, Zeke, Adrian Peterson, people like that were taken in the first round, they're still going to be taken because teams are going to be like, we are missing that one piece, and it's a running back.
Right.
Yeah, we got to pay him a little bit more, but we're going to have to pay him a little bit more anyways down the road. Why don't we kind of knock it out, have him for 5 years, 4 years, and he's ours.
Or they'd be going at it like the old contracts, where I want a 7-year contract. I want 6 years. I want to extend that out so guys don't
Guaranteed
get to that.
$130 million. They haven't played it down.
Well, quarterbacks, sure. Maybe not running backs. Running backs, if they could sign them to those long-term deals, use them for 6 years, and it doesn't matter. The guy's 28 anyway, right? 29, you're probably only getting another year or two out of him. You just let him walk at that point. Guys want to make it to the second contract in the NFL because that's really where you get paid, and that's why running backs still want to extend and want to have the shorter contracts coming out of the draft.
Oh my God, a ghost just walked into our show. It's Shay.
Hey, what's up, Shay? Good to see you, man.
I think you called it. I think you said Shay will show up as soon as the season starts.
Yep. I don't blame him. If I was a Saints fan, I'd probably want to take an off season away from it too. I would. I mean,
we love you, Shay. We're just giving you a hard time.
What a way to go out. We don't have time to go into that. But also, Austin said Miami is in full rebuild mode. He thinks they're going to get the number 1 pick next year. I think it's a race to the bottom. I think Indianapolis is trying to compete a lot more than they are. I think when you look at Miami, they're likely to be the number 1 pick, but there are still some teams out there, like Tampa Bay, sorry, Will, like the Giants even, that might beat them out because regardless of where you stand, you don't want to tank in the NFL. You want to set the precedent of we don't lose or we never purposely lose. Regardless of them trading away an offensive lineman like that, they're still going to try to stay competitive. Maybe they luck into a couple wins, and that makes them pick 3, pick 4, pick 5 instead. They're going to be bad. Everyone agrees, right? They're going to be bad.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm with you kind of, Austin, but they'd even be my favorite. I'm just saying it's not over yet. The NFL season's weird.
Austin also comments as well saying, find a way to figure out a raise mid-contract if a certain milestones are met. Certain numbers of TDs, yards in your first 2 years gives you a pay raise. Zeke goes off and says that doesn't always work. Teams are aware of your numbers and will bench you week 15 and 16.
He's right. We've seen that happen.
It does happen, but that's where
good organizations don't do it.
But then again, yeah, I'm about to say good organizations don't do it. But then again, when you become such an invaluable piece to your offense, your team, regardless if you're about to hit that mark at 15 and 16, needs you in there, and they're not going to bench you just because they're talking about a couple million in your pocket.
And more than that, if you're Todd Gurley and they're talking about a couple $1 million and you're saying, I'm not going to get many chances to make money, I'm still not happy with it. It's almost impossible to re-gauge how much money it would need to be unless you have some kind of sliding scale. And at that point, I think you're right. You'd have teams shut guys down so that they wouldn't have to pay all the bonus money unless they're competing for a Super Bowl. A couple more of these comments because we got some good ones here. James wants to know how we think the Colts are going to do with Jacoby Brissett. I think they went from 10 wins to 6. I've been on the record saying this, James. I don't want to hurt your feelings. Take it from a Titans fan, so take it with a grain of salt. But I think when you lose a top-level quarterback like Andrew Luck and you put an average to maybe somewhere slightly below average quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, along with a roster that has great players on it but has a lot of weaknesses as well, you're not talking about being in a very winning system. Obviously, they think they could win. They brought in Brian Hoyer and paid him a lot of money to be their backup in case something happens to Jacoby Brissett. So in Indianapolis, they think they're going to get something done. I don't think they have the roster for it. I think Andrew Luck was the guy who made that team a playoff team. With him gone, I think you're probably talking about 5 or 6 wins.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I completely agree with that. Shay says, Drew, I see the Chiefs got shady. What do I feel about it? I honestly, I don't know, man. I mean, how much does a 31-year-old running back who has dealt with injuries these last couple of years, yeah, he's had a couple great games, but to be honest, we have a young back in Damian Williams that has not had a lot of tread off the tires. We also got a young rookie in Thompson that I believe has possibly a very high ceiling in the NFL that I would like to see some time. It doesn't hurt us. After letting Carlos Hyde go in the trade, which was a great move by our GM, Brett Veach, bringing in someone like this is huge. I mean, it's definitely a veteran in that backfield, because that was one thing we were lacking, was a veteran in the running back room.
Now, Josh says, longtime Dolphins fan, and he cannot believe that Flores is saying that they're not tanking. Now, he understands that you can't just say you are, but you need today a little bit more about letting go that much talent. Look, here's what I'll say, Josh. You're doing the John Gruden-style rebuild without trading away top-tier talent. I want to talk about this. I want to go in on the Dolphins and the Houston Texans. First off, Josh, if you're a Dolphins fan, you should be dancing in the street. Laremy Tunsil struggled early on in his career. I get it. Last year, he looked like he was a top 15 tackle. Kenny Stills is a solid NFL receiver, but he's not a world beater. You traded 2 average to maybe slightly above average, or 1 slightly above and 1 slightly below. You traded him for 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. Do you know what Oakland got for 2 top 5 guys at their position? Maybe top 10 if you don't like Amari Cooper. 2 first-round picks. They stole this move. They stole it, especially when you talk about the Bears and the way their defense was looking. Everyone knew the Bears were going to be good by getting Khalil Mack. The Cowboys, everyone knew the Cowboys were going to be good if they could throw the ball a little bit. They knew those would be bottom-level first-round picks, Josh. So let me tell you this. You don't know that Houston's going to be that good. Jacksonville is talented. Indianapolis still has some talent. Maybe they surprise people with Jacoby Brissett. And the Titans have won 9 games 3 straight years. There's so much talent in this. The Houston Texans could absolutely bomb out and have a 5 or 6 win season because there's so much talent around them. They stole this move. And I don't say that about the Dolphins very much. I don't think the Dolphins are a greatly well-run organization. But I think this one, I have to give them 100% of the credit. They killed it. They absolutely killed it. They murdered the Houston Texans, who said, we need to protect Deshaun Watson. And we've said that at any cost.
Yeah.
But not at this cost, right? So at any cost might be wrong.
Right. But on the other side of the spectrum, when you look at the Houston Texans, what we talked about, like you just brought up, it was a necessity to cover Deshaun Watson's backside. And what did they do? They split the farm to get to it. They covered his backside. As much as you could, I agree with you. Tunsil did not look good year 1. Year 2 looked pretty promising. We got to remember, this guy's still young.
But he was also the best on one of the worst offensive lines in football.
Right.
But we're talking bottom 3.
Now he's going to the worst offensive line.
Right.
So he's still going to be the best player on that offensive line.
But that doesn't matter if Deshaun Watson's still getting killed. And this is my point.
But
you're
right.
But
sometimes it takes that one player. I've said this so many times.
We saw it with the Colts with Quentin Nelson.
One player,
but you're not getting a Quentin Nelson. You're not getting a top 3 guy at the position.
We don't know that yet.
Probably not. Okay, but
probably
it's
not.
Safe to bet that it's not.
All right, but we don't know that yet.
Okay, here's another part that I want to go into. Yes, the blindside protection is important in today's NFL. You don't want strip sacks. You don't want the quarterback getting blasted when he can't see the guy. But with as many good pass rushers that have come into the league, you almost need 2 tackles anymore. Right. So it doesn't matter if Laremy Tunsil is the best tackle in football. If the rest of the offensive line stinks and Deshaun Watson's getting hit from every other direction, it doesn't matter if you see it or not.
Right.
If he's got 2 seconds to throw, he's still not going to succeed. Right. So when you're trading away 2 firsts and a second-round pick, I do like them bringing in Kenny Stills because they've had questions at depth. If anything, Kenny Stills has been available and he has some talent. But this, you could have traded like a 4th or a 5th-round pick and probably got Kenny Stills. You probably should have traded like a 2nd-round pick for Laremy Tunsil and been done with it. Instead, they traded away 2 firsts and a second. I think they got a 3rd and a 4th back, but honestly, it does not matter. They got their eyes torn out in this trade. Yeah. Miami, if you're going to rebuild, you've got the new head coach. You've got Josh Rosen, who is a kind of test quarterback that if you don't like it, you're probably going to be bad and you're going to get to draft somebody next year. They have set themselves up for a perfect rebuild.
Just because I don't know this, Jeremy says, isn't Watson left-handed?
Deshaun Watson? I don't think so. I don't think there is a left-handed quarterback. I don't think there's a left-handed starter in the NFL. I would be shocked. I'm pretty sure he's right-handed, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
I'm almost 100% sure that everybody in the NFL is right-handed as a starting. I know we had like the Jared Lorenzen, who is the hefty lefty, and Tim Tebow, another notable lefty. It's pretty rare to get a left-handed quarterback these days. It's almost a misnomer that people want to have the right-handed guy at quarterback because they're worried about the spin of the ball and it's so weird and everything, and you don't want. It's hard to get that good pass-blocking right tackle. that you just don't see a lot of those guys drafted.
I do want to get to this comment because it's a shot at you by Ian. Ian says...
That's why you want to get to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Miami, Tampa Bay, Oakland, Tennessee. The New York Giants are fighting for the bottom. Do you believe... Do
9
you
wins,
believe,
3 straight years. I mean, anything could happen.
Do you believe those teams are the ones fighting for the bottom?
If it was going to
falling
happen,
bottom?
it would have been when Blaine Gabbert was the quarterback last year. They have 2 better quarterbacks. I think the Titans are going to be fine. Ian, I appreciate the lack of faith in my team. Maybe it's because the Titans and Steelers always play each other tough. But I think the Titans will be okay. If anything, they're probably like a 6-win team at worst. And then they'll probably wind up... That's probably what will happen. They'll be too bad to go draft the quarterback of the future, and then I'll be stuck with like Ryan Tannehill or Marcus Mariota for the next 4 years of my life.
Jeremy said he went and fat. God, okay.
Fact checked.
Yeah, that
what you're going
word.
for?
That was
Okay.
the word I was looking for.
Perfect.
It's a great word. I do want to get to Chris's comment. He says he's so tired of people sleeping on the Colts. Brady got Jacoby Brissett traded away for a reason. He saw Brissett was capable and of the Indianapolis Colts. I'm sorry, comments may move up. He says Brissett was capable of the Indianapolis Colts will get more than 6 wins and will more than likely finish 9-7 and or 11-5. The Colts will upset and surprise a lot of people. The Colts have a solid defense. They have a lot of talent. The offense, with or without luck, he believes this is a winning organization.
They were 18th on defense last year, and they got there by bullying teams like Jacksonville and holding them. What, did you shut out Jacksonville? Or was it 6 points? They bullied Tennessee a couple times. They bullied the bad teams, but then they played some teams like the Jets and got blown off their heels, where they should have absolutely taken care of them. They're not a great defense. They're not the worst defense. They're somewhere in the middle. They've got players. I love Darius Leonard. I love Justin Houston coming in. I love Malik Hooker. I think he's a great player when he's on the field. But I think they've got a lot of holes there. I also think Jacoby Brissett sat behind Jimmy Garoppolo as well until Jimmy Garoppolo had an injury. And then he played, and he looked good for the Patriots. He's not a bad player by any means. He's probably like a fringe starter. You're probably talking about him being like the 28th best quarterback in the league, where he'll surprise some people. But Indianapolis is not built to have the 28th best quarterback and to succeed.
Jeremy, I did call you fat, but I also called you sexy. I think I made up for it.
Chris, I will say this, though. If I am sleeping on the Colts, it's going to set you up for one of the best I told you so's in history.
Well, you're frustrating. I'm sleeping on them.
Look, they have good players. I love T.Y. Hilton. I love that they have a great offensive line. I like Marlon Mack. I think he's a great player.
From the audience, 2 tight ends. Two
tight ends. Exactly.
I mean, realistically.
Eric Ebron has looked great since he got away from Matt Stafford, who
Jack Doyle looks good.
And Jack Doyle has looked good for years.
Yeah.
They have some players in this offense. Maybe they can kind of keep pace a little bit. Maybe the offense all comes together and Jacoby Brissett's one of the best quarterbacks, and this is one of the best offenses out there, and the defense is average, and we're talking about them being a good team. But it's going to be hard to beat teams like Houston that have Deshaun Watson. It's going to be hard to beat teams like Tennessee that play this kind of defense when the rest of your team, unless you have a top-level quarterback. Again, if you thought Andrew Luck was a top 3 quarterback as a Colts fan, you can't tell me the team is... and you won, 10 games last year? You can't tell me this is a major step back by bringing Jacoby Brissett on the field. You don't have 2 top 15 quarterbacks. Right? Right. Nobody does.
Nobody does.
That's not a shot. I'm just saying. You don't have 2 top 15 quarterbacks.
Stop
this team is
frustrating
going to
Chris.
take a little bit of a step back.
I thought you
And
were
Watson is right-handed, if the internet is to be believed.
That's what I was doing when I fat-checked Jeremy.
You fat check somebody. You're good at hockey.
Hair D is asking, does he start Greg Olsen or Jimmy Graham at tight end?
Oh, that's a tough set. I don't like Jimmy Graham. I don't like any Packers this week.
Dude, don't spoil it.
I am spoiling it. Don't start any Packers. I'm going to go Greg Olsen, especially if Cam Newton plays. Check the waiver wire.
We're calling the show.
You
This
need to
is
know.
it. You've ruined it. The whole show.
You need to know. Hardy. You need to know if Cam Newton's playing. If Cam Newton is not playing, don't trust Tyler Heineke. Don't trust their rookie quarterback out of West Virginia, Will Grier. Don't trust anyone that's coming in to play the backup role. If that's the case, you go with Jimmy Graham. You just take it. You just hope he can get a touchdown or something like that that's going to make him worth the start. Weeks down the road, Jimmy Graham might be an okay player, but the other thing is Aaron Rodgers doesn't throw to a lot of tight ends. He's definitely receiver-focused when he's a quarterback. He's a talented guy, or was a talented guy. Jimmy Graham, to me, is like tight end number 9 or number 10 in fantasy. I like Greg Olsen a little bit better, especially if Cam plays.
There's an issue with Greg Olsen. He can't stay healthy.
He's 99 years old.
So if you're going to sit there and take him for one game, it would be this game because it's week 1. But again, it depends on what kind of Cam Newton you're getting. I mean, I imagine the Panthers are going to be a very run-heavy team, and we all know what the Packers are going to do. They're going to throw the ball. So it is a very, very tough decision, but I'm going to go with Jake. If I was going to pick one, I think it's Jimmy Graham because you have an option, a better option of him catching the ball because they're going to be throwing so much, trying to catch up to this Bears defense or offense.
Right, and let me go. Chris responded, going back to the Colts thing. I want to talk about this real quick. He says, they have way too many options, talking about the Colts here, for Brissett to fail. You can't comment because I got to read this. The only thing that he's concerned with is the secondary. And he also says Houston has no defense, and Watson and Hopkins are the only threat in that offense. Well, they just traded for Kenny Stills. They have a great receiver when he's healthy in Will Fuller and Kiki Kute. They now have more receiving weapons than they've had in a while. Not to mention, hopefully Laremy Tunsil can turn the offensive line around. I don't expect it, but you never know. I still think it's a tough matchup. They have a great front seven at Houston. Even with Jadeveon Clowney gone, they still have guys like Whitney Merciless and J.J. Watt. Unless something happens to those guys, and it's happened before, they're still going to be somewhat decent on defense. They're still going to be causing some havoc up front. I'm not saying that they're just dominated by Houston. They're not going to be able to beat them. But this isn't a pushover still, Chris. This is a team that's going to be pretty good. You're right saying Houston's secondary is pretty weak. Yeah. I totally agree there. They have some questions. They need another A.J. Boye to come out of the weeds and surprise everybody. And then this time they need to keep him. But if that doesn't happen, they need to figure out a way to be just after the passer in the best way possible. And I agree with you. I think Jacoby Brissett is going to have some receiving weapons here. It's going to be an interesting matchup in Houston, but you still got to figure out who's going to block all these guys up front. And I know the line was great last year. It's tough doing it 2 years in a row. Ask Dallas, ask Tennessee, ask a lot of these good offensive lines, unless your name is the Ravens. It's really tough to put great offensive lines out there year in and year out, even with the same guys.
Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for that comment. You did make a spelling check, though. You said you're the greatest show on Facebook, not just yours, the greatest. I just wanted to clear that up with you real quick. Scott saying Jimmy G's his tight end, and the Packers are going to lean on Graham very heavily this year.
But haven't we said that?
I was just about to say that. Go ahead.
No, if you want to...
No, that's what I was going to say. Go ahead.
The only thing, Scott, we've said that when they had Martellus Bennett. We said that, the last great tight end that we've seen was Jermichael Finley before he had his bad neck injury. And that was like the last tight end Aaron Rodgers really utilized. Jimmy Graham last year, it was all about Jimmy Graham's going to take everything over. I'm not saying it's a bad pick, right? There's still upside. Right. If Jimmy Graham has kind of that resurgent year, you look like a genius.
We talked about him being the sleeper pick this week.
But this is the kind of guy I don't want to roll into the season as my only option at tight end. And I also don't want to roll into the Bears game with Jimmy Graham having to start against this athletic linebacking core. Yeah. That's my thing. Yes, the Packers are going to have to throw, right? We're benching Aaron Jones because we don't believe in him running against this Bears defensive front. We're benching him week 1. They're going to have to throw instead of it. Maybe Jimmy Graham catches a touchdown. Maybe he breaks it open. Maybe he's the weak link because they focus on or maybe he's like the best option open because they focus on Devontae Adams. But this is a tough game to start him. And I still don't love him as a player in this system where Aaron Rodgers would rather throw to receivers you've never heard of instead of finding Jimmy Graham last year.
Scott said last time Jimmy Graham had a gunslinger at quarterback, he killed it in New Orleans. But this is not year 1 for Jimmy Graham in the Packers uniform.
But he's had a gunslinger on Russell Wilson, even though they don't throw as much.
But still, it's not year 1.
Right, and this is year 2. Absolutely, in Green Bay. So, I don't know.
B says, how do we feel about the Popeyes chicken sandwich? He'd appreciate our thoughts.
I haven't stopped by Popeyes. I don't know about you.
That's in the ghetto part of town, so I'll probably pass on
Whoa. Slow roll that one. All right, anyway.
All right, and we froze. I hope we're still there. Good old Facebook
we are.
treating us right.
Try to reset it. It says we're still on.
We're going to keep on rolling and see what happens. But I'm still getting comments, so... We must be...
Yeah, we're good. I don't know why it froze on both screens, but OBS says we're okay. We're going to keep rolling. Guys, sorry about that. I don't know why Facebook does this sometimes. It just does. It's still doing it.
I know you miss Hannah, okay?
She'll be back tomorrow.
But...
Spoiler alert.
Just enjoy my face for a little while. Blank out this side of your screen and enjoy this face.
Oh, and we're back. All right. Well, I can see that we're back. So that's... I couldn't take another tech emergency, Drew. My heart would probably explode. It probably would. I would just die on set. And then, what are you guys going to do? You can't call an ambulance. You don't know where I am.
I know where you are.
I would make sure I took you with me. Anyway, before we move on and talk about, we've kind of touched on everything. We've kind of gone in on Laremy Tunsil.
Yes.
Do you want to talk Melvin Gordon and his trade partners? Because I know Will was saying he's going to Tampa Bay. I didn't get a chance to poo-poo on that a little bit.
Poo-poo?
I meant to, yeah. I meant to tell you, everybody, Melvin Gordon is in a tough spot. And I want to talk about that. Melvin Gordon is in a tough spot because there's not a lot of teams out there that are going to compete but also need a running back. I know the Chiefs are one of them, but you're not trading Melvin Gordon in division. Come hell or high water, the Chargers won't send him to Kansas City. Not when both teams are competing.
Yeah.
It would be more likely that they trade him to Oakland. It'd be more likely they trade him to Denver. But both of those teams have running backs now.
Yeah, it's not happening.
It's not going to KC.
B says, who would we rather pick at week 1 versus the Pack, Montgomery or Tariq Cohen?
Say that again?
Who would we rather pick?
Dave Montgomery for the Bears?
Yes.
Tyreek Cohen, hands down. We saw a more talented running back, assumedly, in Jordan Howard get kind of frozen out by Matt Nagy and the way he wants to play the game. I love Tyreek Cohen. I feel like everyone's sleeping on Tyreek Cohen. They want to throw the ball. They want to be more of an aggressive offense that spreads things out. Tyreek Cohen's going to get a lot of that work. I think they're overusing him. But as long as they're overusing him, you might as well cash in fantasy-wise. Dave Montgomery will probably get a little bit of goal line work, so you might miss a touchdown or two. But especially if you're playing any type of PPR or half point, I'm going to go Tyreek Cohen this week. Until Dave Montgomery can prove he's going to get a legitimate number of touches in this offense. They still have Mike Davis, who's going to do the same thing. They didn't pay him very little, but they didn't pay him for nothing.
Ian says, Popeyes is by the Titan Stadium. Yes, it is.
How do you know?
That's where the ghetto is.
Well, it's not a great part of town.
It's a great part of town.
There's not that bad. There's not that bad.
There's a
side of
river,
Nashville.
so that side's good.
Anymore.
There's a river on half of it. That's a good side.
Here's a good fantasy question.
You're not going to answer. You're not going to comment to that.
I'm totally staying away from that. Hardy wants to know Deshaun Jackson, Tyler Boyd, Cam Sutton.
No, Colton Sutton.
Sorry. Or Demaryius Thomas or Paul Richardson. Which two do we take? First off, Tyler Boyd plays this week. Andy Dalton's healthy. AJ Green is not. The Bengals are likely to throw because they're going to be getting scored on. I love Tyler Boyd this week. Early on.
I'm actually going to tell you he's a starter probably halfway through your season unless you have a dominant 1-2 punch at receiver. This guy's going to see the ball and he's going to see it very often. Let's not forget, when Andy Dalton and AJ Green were healthy last year, that offense was booming.
Right. But, well, even without him, Tyler Boyd had his best year last year.
But I'm just saying.
Even without him, Andy Dalton was slinging it all over the place, and he needed to. Because the defense was so atrocious, they're like, look, we can only run so long. We're down by 14, like 10 minutes into the game. Tyler, it's going to be the same scenario. They're going to be way behind. Tyler Boyd's the best receiving option on that team right now. It's not John Ross. It's not Josh Malone, Station Camp alum, by near here. Too bad for him. Not the best option. It's Tyler Boyd. He's the best of a bad situation, which in fantasy can be a gold mine. Because that means he's going to get targeted early and often for you. I love Tyler Boyd. As for the rest of them, Cam Sutton and Emmanuel Sanders, it's going to be really tough to know who Colton Sutton. It's going to be tough to know who to bet on.
I would say
that receiving group.
I'd say stay away from Thomas. I think with Sutton and Jackson, I think it's a toss-up.
I like Richardson in the mix too. I like Richardson, and Deshaun Jackson's got that home run ability. If you think you're going to lose this game, if you need to score a lot of points to win, I'm going to roll Deshaun Jackson.
I think it's Jackson and Sutton as another. I think it's those two. I don't believe in Paul Richardson. I just don't. And I don't really believe in any Redskins receiver right now until they kind of figure out what they're going to do at quarterback. I know they're starting Case Keenum, but I think it's because they have to start Case Keenum.
Right, and even still, I think they're going to have to throw the ball at some point. I still like Paul Richardson in that receiving group, so that's why I'm saying pick him. I don't really like any of them. They're talking about getting rid of their top-level wide receiver who's been the guy for 4 years. He used to be a first-round pick, and whose name I can't think of. He's that good. God. He's one of the biggest busts at wide receiver in the first round since every Titan first-round wide receiver ever.
I wasn't listening to anything you said.
That's fine. Who's Washington's first-round wide receiver who sucks?
No, he's gone now. Josh Doxson.
Josh Doxson. Did they cut him?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's a
I know they were
Vikings
talking about
now.
Okay.
It's with the Vikings.
So Josh Doxson is gone. And you have Paul Richardson, who's the best in a bad situation, just like Tyler Boyd. That can be enough. I'm going to go probably Richardson and Boyd.
It's a lot better situation with Andy Dalton throwing the ball than Case Keenum.
Sure. Sure, but I'm saying like for the receiving core is what I'm saying. The
Oh,
best
okay.
guy in a bad receiving core. He's going to get the
got you.
focus. I think when you look at it, Deshaun, if you're way behind and you need home runs, you take Deshaun Jackson because he might be the guy who catches you up where he has a 20-point week. If you think you're a match for this guy and you want to kind of just put a consistent guy out there, I'd go Richardson and Tyler Boyd. Don't love your wide receiver set, but Tyler Boyd's a good pick for right now, especially if A.J. Green struggles with health this year. As long as he's healthy, Tyler Boyd, I think, is a good pick.
And I'm completely opposite. I obviously would agree with Boyd, but I think it's a matchup between Jackson and Sutton. I think you just got to choose who you think's going to or who's going to throw the ball more. If I had to pick quarterback situation, I'd obviously lean on Carson Wentz being the better quarterback. So maybe Deshaun Jackson, especially they want to kind of show their new weapon off. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but he's got a lot of speed on that high end.
So Chris wants to know, does it hurt knowing Tennessee will never beat Luck? Let me tell you this, Chris, a little bit, but nowhere near as much as Indy not having him. I'm sure that hurts a lot worse. Also, Chris said he doesn't think Green Bay is a threat to anyone this year. I think they're going to be a little bit on the way back. Their offensive line still has some question marks, but they have Aaron Jones, and I think if they lean on him a little bit, they can establish a little bit of the run. They have Devontae Adams still. They still have Aaron Rodgers, and more importantly, they spent big time to fix up this defense. If these guys pan out the way that everyone kind of expects them to and the way they have in the past, Green Bay will be closer to a 10-win team than they will to be 6 wins again. Or was it 7? Was it 6? I think it was 6 last year.
I got caught up in all these comments. Oh, here's Bo. Bo, it's always good to see you. He
Bo's
said
just
the-
here to flex because the Seahawks have been murdering people here lately. GM-wise.
He
This
said
winning
Browns-
off the field.
He's a Browns fan, is what you meant.
Oh, I
Browns
must
are-
have the wrong Bo. Sorry.
It's all right. Browns are locked down and loaded and definitely dangerous.
Well, we weren't going to talk about it, but they just traded for Taywan Taylor from the Titans, a guy who, if you remember, I said was on the bubble. Instead of getting cut, he got sent for a 7th-round pick up to Cleveland. This is a good depth move, regardless of how Drew feels. This is a good depth move. It's a guy that's going to help out. If he's forgotten, he has upside. Then again, he needs to hang on to the football, too. He caught a lot of deep passes last year. Maybe they're bringing him in to do a little bit of that. Maybe he's going to do some slot work for him. Cleveland is looking more dangerous by the day with each and every one of these moves they make.
What happened?
We were talking Cleveland the whole time.
No, we weren't. You said something about...
About a receiver who used to be in Tennessee, and lo and behold, Tennessee didn't actually use him well.
Okay, what?
You done?
Are you done?
No.
It's not important. That's not a good move. That's like me sitting there
What do you mean
saying...
it's not a good move.
No.
You just picked up a 3rd-round receiver and gave up a 7th.
Just because someone picks someone in the 3rd round doesn't make him a good player.
It does when they catch a bunch of deep balls.
But he didn't.
He did. He dropped a lot of them, too. But he caught some of them. And that's the thing. You fix the hands, and all of a sudden, you're back to having a great player for nothing. This is the perfect kind of move that you want to use your 7th-round picks on, because odds are those 7th-round picks aren't turning into anything. You're going to take a guy that shows some upside in the NFL, you bring him into your team and say, hey, maybe we fix him. If we don't, guess what? He gets the foot up the butt, and he's out of here next year. So, again, it's...
Oh, too funny.
Also, Ian says Facebook doesn't like him. It keeps kicking him out of there. He says, raise fist. Damn you, Facebook. We know what that's like.
No,
It booted us out of our own show.
Facebook is great.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Forgot they're listening to all of our conversations.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. They're great. We love them. All right.
Well, let's go into our fantasy.
Let's do it.
Our loves. What we're going to try to do, guys, hopefully...
I was going to talk about this. Melvin Gordon's not going to Tampa Bay because they're broke.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't afford a guy that's going to want top running back money when
No.
you have no money to pay anybody and you have to let everybody go. He's not going to Tampa. Miami, I think, is the most likely trade partner. Indy, if they feel like they want to spend some dough, but we saw Indy have all the money in the world, didn't do it. Now we'll talk fantasy. I don't know who they're trading for because, again, the good teams have running backs. The bad teams, it's not worth it to go trade him away. He's not going to want to go there. So we'll see.
Guys,
And-
go
ahead.
Oh,
Most bad teams have decent running back options, too, that don't want to pay a guy $15 million to be the running back.
guys, just because we have so much to talk about when it comes to games, just let you know our schedule has changed. I don't know. Do you want to go into what the schedule is like again? Remind everyone what it is during the football season, what we have on schedule.
Sure. Tuesdays, we're going to do our Thursday night preview. We're going to talk about Monday Night Football, as well as everything going on in the news. It's our kind of
And Sunday
variety
Night
show.
Football.
Yes, it's going to be kind of our variety show. We're going to do the primetime games. We're going to do a little bit of Thursday Night Football, and as well as everything else going on in the world of sports. If there's something that you want to talk about, Tuesday is the perfect day to do it. Wednesday, it's all about college football. We're going to talk about what happened the week before, what happened the week after. Hopefully, we're going to have Hannah around to do this. She's going to be our college football correspondent. Say that 5 times fast.
I'm not going to.
Also, Friday, we will be back to do a preview of every game coming up in the NFL, and then Sunday, in between Sunday Night Football and the afternoon games,
Right.
we will be on to talk about all the action going on there. If you guys want to join us, we would love to have you. Obviously, especially those Sunday night talk shows, we got to go fast, but it's always the most fun to get those live reactions from everyone who just watched their team either kill somebody or get killed or limp one out or whatever. Sundays are fun. So is every other day.
So what our plan is hopefully this year on Tuesday, when we're talking all the news, everything from what happened Sunday night to Monday night and the matchup for Thursday night, we are going to try to go ahead and do our fantasy favorites. And what we're going to stay away from is all your big names and hates. It's going to stay away from all your big names. Obviously, you start Patrick Mahomes. Obviously,
Drew's adding segments to the show without telling me, but I like it. I like it.
This is what was going to happen.
Start Patrick Mahomes this week. You'll kill it.
Yeah, we're going to stay away from all those big names. So we're going to sit there and try to get some of those guys who are sitting on your waiver wire, sitting there going, do I pick him up for this game? Or he's sitting on your bench. Is he worth starting? We're going to try to do this every Tuesday without Jake's approval. This is going to be great, and it's going to be a great segment every Tuesday night with you guys.
Go ahead.
Let's go ahead.
I was going to say, Chris has a fantasy question about Marlon Mack. He says, would you start Marlon Mack or would you keep him in the flex spot? It's all the same. It depends on what your bench looks like. I think a flex is the same thing as starting a guy. I don't worry about it unless you're in one of those leagues.
Well, the only time that matters if it's a tie. That'd be the only thing that I would see an issue with. Depending on who your starters are, I think Mack is a good position sitting in your flex.
Now, if you're talking about benching him or whether you should go with someone else or put Marlon Mack in the flex, I will say this. I want to see what his usage rate looks like. I think he's the most talented guy in that backfield. But they might decide they want to play a little more ball control without having a gunslinger like Andrew Luck and maybe taking that half step back that I expect out of Jacoby Brissett. If that's the case, you could see more Jordan Wilkins or Nyheim Hines touch the ball more than you want to see for a Marlon Mack holder. Also, I want to see how much Jacoby Brissett checks it down to him. I think if you can get away with it and you can bench him for the first week or two, so you can get a little bit of a sample size and see what to expect from him, that's the best play. If you got to play him, there are a lot worse guys to play. He's still, in my opinion, the lead back in Indianapolis.
Yep.
He's just a lead back that's going to share.
Yeah.
And not just with one guy. I think Wilkins is going to be involved too. I think it's going to be a three-way share. But when it's a three-way share, you want to be the one guy who does like one thing. So you've got the receiving back more than likely and the more dynamic guy in Marlon Mack, and then Wilkins and Nyheim Hines are more of the power kind of running backs. They're not totally power backs, but they're going to handle more of that work. You want to have the one guy instead of having the guy like Hines or Wilkins who might have to share some of that work.
Yeah, no, I think you nailed it. Absolutely.
So again, Chris, sit him if you can. If you need to start him, roll with him in the flex and just say, hey, it's okay. I could do a lot worse right now. Believe me, one of my fantasy teams that I totally messed up, it's going to get dicey. I got a ton of receivers.
This one?
Running back?
Oh, no.
No, you messed that one up.
What? I picked
I love
one
it. You're like,
guy.
I didn't pick anybody. But then I was going through, I was like, oh, yeah, Drew picked him. Drew talked me into this one.
I picked
Drew picked that
one guy.
He wrecked us. He wrecked our show's picks. But that's okay.
We need to go back.
It's just our pride on the line.
We need to go back to the show.
We do need to rewatch it.
Rewatch it. So
I
can
did
sit there and go,
3 times, and I'm still
You're
broken
such a liar tonight.
At least once. All right, that's fine. Also, Austin says he could see Green Bay, Chicago, and the Vikings in a 3-way battle for that division. Yes, and I think the sleeper team of the Lions to do slightly better than last year. They might only be 7 or 8 wins, but this defense is getting better. They're adding some names to that defense up there in Detroit. I don't know. We'll see. A couple more. Bo says, it's called Pick Your Poison. Baker, he has so many options to throw to. Yes, that's why the only reason I'm saying fade some of these guys, besides the injury history on Odell Beckham, you don't know who's touching the ball yet in Cleveland. It's great to have him if you get him for a value, but you don't want to start him week 1 and then have him decide, I don't like Jarvis Landry anymore. I want to throw to Odell Beckham all day long.
Oh, I do got to read this comment. I don't know if it's on mine. Hold on. Don't move it. No, you moved it.
Wait, go ahead.
B says, Jake used to talk so much crap about Taywan Taylor. I don't even want to hear you defend him.
Show me the tape. I think it's the reverse. I think I've been all over Taywan Taylor telling you how great he is.
You're right.
I think, yeah, okay.
You are 100% right. It might not have been on this show.
Here we go.
It might not have been on this show, but it was definitely come out of your mouth at some point in time.
Really?
Yes.
Actually, I think it's the reverse. I think I've defended him probably more than he's needed to be defended, right?
Bees, help me out here.
Yeah, show me the tape. Show me the tape where like Taywan Taylor's a bum. I don't think I've ever said it. Anyway.
All right, can we get to our segment?
We can.
It's segment time.
Sure. Segment time. Go ahead.
I love the comments, guys. I'm not trying to ignore you. I see a lot of you guys.
Just hates you.
A lot of you guys are
This
talking
is why I'm
amongst
the man
each
of the
other.
people, and Drew is always the stickler for whatever. But that's okay. Go ahead, Drew. What did you need to talk about?
No, they are talking amongst each other. We're just background noise.
Okay, fair enough.
No, we really do need to get in this segment. I think it's important. If it's not, you guys can tell me that it's not worth our time. And Andrew says defend himself trashing Taylor. That's
Who's it? Wait, what?
Andrew said that, not me, not this Drew, but this Andrew said defended himself talking trash about Taylor.
Defended me or
No,
who? What?
you defending yourself.
I'm out in left field. I've never talked trash about him. Even now, I'm saying he's a good draft pick. I said he drops the ball too much. And what do you always tell me? That I love the Titan receivers? That I'm like, oh man, you're over exaggerating how much talent they have. You always say that.
Yeah.
This is the reverse of that. So how was I trashing him? But then I love him too. It doesn't. No.
It was like Tajay Sharp and Corey
I
Davis.
do trash Tajay Sharp. I think he's, for a guy that came out and said I can count on one hand the number of passes I've dropped in college, and then he drops like 10 passes the first season. Yeah, that I've tried. I've gone after Tajay Sharp before, and maybe you guys are getting confused not knowing who the fourth receiver is in the Titans roster, but I've never talked trash about Tajay Sharp, even though he drops the ball more than he needs to. He's still a guy that can take the top off of defense and do slot work. I've forever said that he could be a guy, if he was on a good team, that could make an impact. It's time to find out. I think higher of Corey Davis, for sure. But if Tajay Sharp is in a good offense, I think he can absolutely help people. That's why I said good job spending a 7th-round pick to go pick him up. Because what are you getting with that 7th-round pick anyway?
A punter.
Probably not. You'll just take him undrafted. So, yeah, nothing. Exactly. I think Cleveland, again, pulled off a great offseason move, which has been a running theme with John Dorsey.
What's up, Ty? Good to see you, man. All right, let's get into our segment. Let's talk about the players that are going under the radar that we believe can be good fantasy starters for you, especially some when you're sitting on that waiver wire or you don't know if you want to start them coming off your bench. Let's start quarterback first. Discussion. Behold, we came out with Jimmy G versus Tampa Bay and that terrible defense. The guy's healthy. Week 1, you know Kyle Shanahan's going to want to throw the ball. How is this guy not a starter on your fantasy lineup unless you got someone like Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers?
More than that, if you're playing daily fantasy, if you're playing on FanDuel or DraftKings or some other app I've never heard of, Jimmy G might be the value pick here because a lot of people are going to see that trashy preseason and kind of get cold feet. This is a great bet if you're playing daily fantasy because this is the kind of pick that can win you something. Tampa Bay's defense is going to be atrocious. I like Devin White. Okay, I like Vita Vea when he's healthy, but he's hurt. For the rest of it, you can take it or leave it. Like a lot of these guys are just role players out there in Tampa. They don't have a good defense at all. If it's going to happen with a great offensive mind, with an offense that hopefully everyone's focusing on, or that's the focus of this team.
Right.
It's going to happen week 1 against Tampa Bay. I think this is a great week 1 bet when you don't know what everyone's going to look like. Go with the team that was bad last year, didn't make a lot of improvements, and looks like they're going to be bad next year on the defense.
Andrew's going off saying Jameis, and Bees is saying, wow, that's a bold prediction.
I don't think it's that bold when you're going up against Tampa Bay.
Right.
Honestly, I'd take a lot of quarterbacks going up against Tampa Bay. This could be Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I say you might want to consider it. Tampa Bay is going to be a bad defense.
Not only that, McKinnon's out. So you got Tevin Coleman in there. And
Still got Matt Breida.
And you got Matt Breida, but Tevin Coleman's more than likely going to be a starter. He's a good receiving back out of that backfield. And Kyle Shanahan, they love to throw the ball. He is a former offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons who threw the ball all over the place when Matty Ice went to the Super Bowl. I mean, this is huge. I mean, let's not forget, Jimmy G was one of the most sought-after free agents at quarterback.
And he's looked good every time he's on the field.
And he's looked great every time he's been on that field. He's healthy. He's got a healthy offensive line and receiving options. I don't know how you don't do this.
Play your matchup.
I agree. Jameson might be worth a notable talk about, but I think, on our opinion, the next guy that we thought about that no one else is really thinking about is Lamar Jackson versus the Dolphins. Is it Lamar Jackson, or is it more the fact that he's going against the Dolphins?
It's more the fact he's going against the Dolphins. Now, all of a sudden, a lot of these players might be demoralized by everyone saying, hey, they're trading all our good players away, and they're leaving, and I'm still here. There's a good chance this Dolphins team quits from the very beginning. Even if they don't, Lamar Jackson should have some success running the ball. I think the Ravens' offensive line is going to win some. If it's going to happen, you want it to be in this kind of similar game where he's got some weapons that he's going to talk about. I'm betting more here in fantasy-wise about his rushing ability. I don't think I'm going to bet on him hooking up with a couple of these rookie wide receivers and finding a way to make it work early on. I think this might be the game where he runs for 150 yards and maybe scores 2 rushing touchdowns. I think Miami's going to be a bad defense. I think they're still going to be okay. They're going to be a little bit higher than someone like Tampa Bay and maybe like Cincinnati and the Giants that we know are really probably in some danger here. But they're still probably like bottom 5, bottom 7 of the league. This is a good time to start Lamar Jackson and that rushing ability he has, because that counts more than passing does in today's fantasy, in most fantasy.
Right. Is there a quarterback that you were saying right now don't start? Even if you took him the first overall quarterback, do you not start a quarterback that you have on your list? I mean, I'm putting you on the line here. I'm asking.
Is there a quarterback I don't want to play this week? Maybe this is the week to sit out Baker Mayfield, and maybe this is me being a little bit of a homer, but the Titans were the 3rd best defense last year. They don't take the ball away so well, but they play really well, and it's a defense that has a lot of cohesion, a lot of guys that have played together. And you've got, the absolute lack of cohesion for the Browns. You have a first-time head coach in Tony Kitchens. You have a new Odell Beckham. Even though Nick Chubb's going to be there, you've got some changes on the offensive line. Maybe this is the week you wait on Baker Mayfield, and who knows, maybe I'm fading him, but this is one of the better defenses he's going to face. If you have another option, maybe you wait on Baker Mayfield.
Mine's Derek Carr. I think that Denver's defense, where you got those 2 pass rushers, you also have Chris Harris Jr. covering Antonio Brown. I think that this is a quarterback that you just put on the hold and wait till a better matchup. Especially week 1, you know Denver is going to try to make a huge thing with Vic Fangio trying to make a huge statement of what that defense is about.
Yep. Now, Andrew says Tampa Bay will finish 2nd in the NFC South. We heard it there first. It's also the only place we've heard it, because I don't see them beating Atlanta. I really don't. I don't see them beating the Saints. I don't see either one of those teams having this major meltdown that's going to cost them. Tampa has no defense. Absolutely no defensive front. They have Devin White, who's the only guy in their linebacking core. On top of that, they don't have a bunch of great players in the offense. They've got some receivers. They've got some good tight ends in Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. Chris Godwin's good. Mike Evans is good. So fantasy-wise, you might want to bet on them, because they're going to have to always keep up with teams, and they're always almost going to have to throw. But I'll say this, man. I really don't see it with this defense. They need to have 3 or 4 guys step up and come out of nowhere and just get the job done on defense if they're going to compete at all.
Well, let's move into running backs. Running backs, obviously, you sit there and you're obviously going to start Saquon Barkley. You're obviously going to start Alvin Kamara. What is that one running back that some people might be sitting on the bench going, should I start this guy or not?
I don't remember what we said, Drew, so tell me. What did I say about running back?
You talked me into Duke Johnson Jr.
Yeah, I think this is the week to go with Duke Johnson. And here's why. Because, the Texans have traded for Carlos Hyde, but he has not worked with this team throughout the entire preseason. He's also a guy with his talent on the decline. He may get a few touches, but I think Duke Johnson's going to be the focus point here for the first week. And also, he's going to be the check down guy. He's going to do some receiving work. If you're in any type of PPR/half-point PPR, I like Duke Johnson here. He's going to get more touches than I even want to see Duke Johnson get it. But again, if he's going to, you might as well feast on it, right? From a fantasy perspective, even if their team isn't using him well, if he's touching the ball, you want him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Austin has a question real quick before I go into running backs. He says he's got Rivers and Stafford leaning towards Rivers. No idea what to expect from the Lions. Andrew comments back and says Rivers is good until Hawkinson goes off. Do you want to answer that?
Beware the rookie tight end. Again, first-round tight ends have a history of not panning out. I'm not saying that Hawkinson and Noah Fant have no chance to be good. Evan Ingram is probably the best example of a rookie tight end, but even that was only 800 yards, I think, 900 yards. It's just really tough in the NFL to have a tight end hit the ground running really early. That's why I'm saying don't bet on Hawkinson, especially, that was one of your picks. Again, ruined our fantasy team. I'm kidding. Matt Stafford doesn't throw to tight ends. He's had Brandon Pettigrew as a former first-round pick. I believe Eric Ebron was a first-round pick as well. He's had first-round tight ends that historically have not worked out with him. Stafford, kind of like Aaron Rodgers, likes throwing to his receivers more than he likes throwing to tight ends. Might change because Hawkinson might be the best weapon there, but it's going to take a lot for a rookie to absolutely light the fantasy world on fire.
I agree with Andrew. You hold off on Stafford until they kind of see where it is. I believe the Chargers have something to prove, especially Phillip Rivers does. Frank, always good to see you, man. Glad you can come in. Scott, I'm going to get to your comment. Let me answer the running backs real quick. You went with Duke Johnson. I think this is definitely a great opportunity. I think that the Houston Texans are going to find themselves in a firefight, so they're going to have to throw the ball. And what does Duke Johnson do really well? He catches the ball out of the backfield. He's probably one of the best, if not the best, receiving back that has been not in an offense that loves to throw the ball to a running back. I like this, and I completely agree with you, but what I brought to the table, and I think we kept with because it's our second option, is the Broncos running back duel. Going against this Raiders defense, you're going to find Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman finding a lot of space in this very weak defensive line. And one thing I believe that the Broncos are going to try to do heavily is run the ball. I think Philip is going to sit there and find himself in a lot of the first and second down, and you're going to sit there and find Royce in the short goal line and third down areas where, Royce doesn't catch the balls where else Lindsey does, but I believe you're going to put your home run hitter, down one, down two, and then he's going to be exhausted, and you put him off the side.
Yep.
Royce will sit there as be a blocker, and
he'll do the cleanup work.
Right, exactly. But I think either one of those running backs, if you're sitting there going, hey, I need a flex position, I think either one of these guys might be worth it.
Especially week one against Oakland. Roll the dice. Even if you have Royce, bet on you getting a touchdown or two with him because, again, Philip Lindsay is probably going to do the 20-20 work, and then once you get inside the red zone, you're either going to pass block with Royce Freeman when you want to throw, or you're going to give it to the big guy and let him pound the rock on the inside. Now, Scott wants to know about David Johnson. Look, you already spent the pick on him. I think he's got to be the every week starter unless you're just super deep at running back, or if you just have other options who can come in and you see a bad matchup with David Johnson. For the most part, if you're spending the 6th overall pick or the 5th overall pick or the 7th overall pick to get David Johnson,
week 8.
You got to roll with him, Scott. You got to have.
He plays till week 8.
Right. Exactly.
Or week 7 until the trade lines up. Maybe find someone willing to trade.
I want to see what your roster looks like. Because if you took 3 running backs or 4 running backs and you got a couple sleeper receivers you love, then maybe you play the matchups a little bit. But right now, you got to roll David Johnson. As for the Cardinals, he catches really, really well, and we're likely to see an offense that spreads the ball a little bit more and gets Kyler Murray involved with his feet, and he's going to need some check down guys. David Johnson is going to be a fantastic check down option if you're playing PPR. I love David Johnson from that standpoint.
I love the pick.
Absolutely. I do too. Again, we're 2 years removed from the wrist injury.
He is healthy.
Exactly. And you're also getting an offense that's going to be much more open and much more creative than we saw last year with both Josh Rosen and the offense that was called.
And he's got a lot more to prove.
Absolutely.
I mean, as much as I like Christian McCaffrey and Kamara and Saquon,
but Andrew's out on him.
They don't have a lot to prove. David Johnson has a lot to prove.
Right, and Andrew's out on him. Andrew says as soon as Johnson goes for 20 points, trade him. Now, you could get great value out of him if you do that. If you really don't believe in him, I understand that. But I also think the Cardinals are going to need to throw if they want to win games. They're getting better at rushing the passer, so maybe the defense keeps up a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're still going to need to throw if they want to win. And when that's the case and you have a receiving back like David Johnson, man, you can clean up on that PPR. You can just have him catch 6 or 7 or 8 passes, get 55 yards because it's tough running, but he's still catching the ball every time, get a touchdown, and we're talking about a 20-point week right there. I mean, I like David Johnson a lot this year. If he's going to bounce back, it's going to be now. I hate to say it, you're kind of the guinea pig. And that sometimes can win you leagues.
Yeah.
People have been out on David Johnson from last year and his performance and what we saw, but he catches the ball really well, and maybe this year he rebounds and looks like another top 3, top 4 running back again.
No doubt. Let's go into receivers. This is our guy that we believe that no one's really picked a high pick on. Everyone's kind of sitting there, do we start this guy over somebody else? We believe this guy's going to have a great game. And this is someone that you kind of had to talk me in over my guy. And my guy is the honorable mention, Chris Godwin, the receiver for the Buccaneers going against the 49ers. You obviously know that the running back for the 49ers, I'm blanking on his name
Tevin Coleman? The 49ers?
The corner, I'm sorry. The corner.
Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman's going to cover Mike Evans, probably blanket that guy for the most part of it. Godwin's going to be on the other side, not getting the attention. You believe that this is going to be a huge setup. And I got to agree with you. We know the Buccaneers are going to throw the ball. And this guy is the second option. There's no doubt about that.
Andrew wants to know, do you start both Evans and Godwin? Potentially you could. Again, it depends on what your depth looks like. Because it's dangerous starting two receivers. You tend to want to go with one and bet on your guy catching the touchdowns for the week, and that's how you wind up getting the difference between other guys. But if you have them both and you don't like the rest of your depth, if you're going to start them both in a week, you want it to be against a 49ers secondary that has Richard Sherman, who's now 32 or 33 years old, is not the same Richard Sherman we saw, and is probably going to do a lot of work up against Mike Evans. You want to go with the number 2 option there. Cameron Brate's going to get work. So is O.J. Howard. He's going to get some catches. But Peyton Barber is not going to do much against this vastly improved defensive front for the 49ers. I don't expect him to have a lot of success, especially because their offensive line isn't very strong. The defense is not going to stop them. I expect Tampa Bay to throw, like a lot of games, they're going to have to throw a lot, and I think Chris Godwin's going to have a lot of value in a lot of weeks being the number 2 guy there. So much focus is going to go to stopping Mike Evans. When you have a talented guy like Chris Godwin, you want him on your fantasy team because he's going to get 6, 7, 8 easy catches and maybe a touchdown.
This is why they're willing to let Deshaun Jackson go. Not only is this guy just as fast as Deshaun Jackson is, he's younger and isn't injury prone so far in his career. This is a guy that you definitely want to pay attention to. Ty went off and asked us about Pettis. We're going to go right back to what we said.
Against Tampa Bay, everyone that you're playing is a good pick.
Jimmy G is our sleeper quarterback this week against Tampa Bay, and until he gets that number 1 target, obviously George Kittle will be that number 1. But the receiving option of it, you got to play almost any receiver that's going to be on the field from 1 to 2.
If we're talking daily, and this is your cheap buy-in as Dante Pettis, you do that, you take it to the bank and say, hey, maybe Pettis catches 2 touchdowns, or maybe he just slashes him and gets 134 yards because nobody's betting on Dante Pettis being the best receiver.
Right.
But if we're talking regular fantasy, and you have other options, I would not fault you for sitting Dante Pettis this week and seeing who Jimmy G is going to favor this year in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Because, again, they don't have a lot of standouts at wide receiver. Like, they have Goodwin, not to be confused with Godwin, but they have Marquise Goodwin, who's very fast and catch some touchdowns, kind of Deshaun Jackson-esque. And then they have also
both
Dante
of the Goodwin
Pettis.
and Godwin are Deshaun Jackson-esque.
They have a lot of, like, those lower-tier receivers that always seem to find a way to get involved in the offense. He's a tough guy to bet on a lot of weeks, but right now, until I see what Jimmy G is going to do, I'm going to say daily fantasy, great pick, decent pick in regular fantasy if you don't have other options.
Frank says Winston is garbage, and I'll answer this one. Yeah, he is in the sense of I don't want him to be my franchise quarterback, but as far as fantasy goes, he is not garbage. He had the number 1 passing offense last year. He played in the number 1 passing offense last year, and this guy has great
top of the line garbage, says Todd.
and he has a lot of weapons to go to. When you talk about fantasy, he is someone worth paying attention to. Ty says Brate for red zone targets. Yes, he has to be because I think he's
still the best receiving tight end.
I think he's the best receiver they have. Yeah,
right.
or in tight end.
He might
position.
be the best. Well, no, okay, I take it back. Mike Evans is the best weapon they have. He might be second, even above Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin might be good.
Godwin's not proven yet.
He's a fantastic receiver, but he's a one-dimensional tight end, and teams don't put the same value on those guys. That's why they drafted O.J. Howard with a first-round pick. Again, beware T.J. Hawkinson. We talked about O.J. Howard the same way going into this offense. And what has O.J. Howard done fantasy-wise for you? Not a lot. That's the only reason I'm telling you to slow roll T.J. Hawkinson coming into the league this year.
Andrew, I'm not ignoring your comment. The only reason I'm not going to answer is because our honorable mention and wide receiver is D.D. Westbrook, the wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars going against this Chiefs.
We're with you there.
I completely agree with you. He's saying he has Westbrook, Edelman, and Snead as his sleepers. We're going to say D.D. Westbrook. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Kansas City Chiefs are going to put up points against this Jacksonville Jaguars defense, even if they come out and could possibly still be the number 1. It's really hard to stop the Chiefs offense. We saw that last year. If you guys can remember, they played the number 1 defense twice and put up over 30 points each time. So they're going to have to throw the ball. What does Nick Foles do? He loves that deep ball. He loves receivers that can run routes properly. D.D. Westbrook is his number 1 receiver.
It's the best chance in Jacksonville.
He found his option there during the preseason. Was one of the times that they got to play. He caught a touchdown during preseason. I believe this guy is going to be Nick Foles' number 1 option until proven different. but I still have to give it to Godwin because the Buccaneers want to throw the ball.
Right, and you want to go against Richard Sherman. I think Godwin's going to get a lot of that work, and I don't really think their secondary is tremendously great out there in San Fran. That's still the weakest part of their defense. I think Tampa Bay is not going to be able to run against that defensive front, so the ball's going to be in the air a lot. Bet on Chris Godwin to catch some balls. Also, to Andrew's point here, he says Edelman. You should be betting on Edelman a lot of weeks because he's Tom Brady's favorite target, quote unquote. I think Josh Gordon hurts him a little bit.
PPR leagues, Edelman is worth it.
Absolutely. I think Josh Gordon hurts him a good bit because now Tom Brady has another option on the outside that's a legitimate receiving threat.
That he favored last year, too.
As long as he's there, I think Edelman takes that, small, should drop in your rankings by a short bit. But Edelman, still a PPR god. He's the guy that catches 14 catches, even if it's for 80 yards. It doesn't matter to you.
Yeah, I would say.
He crushes it in PPR leagues for sure. If you're playing standard, maybe you kind of push Edelman even further down the list, but he's still not the worst option in the world. I think Josh Gordon is still the receiver to have in New England. I think Tom Brady likes having the deep ball ability and being able to force it to the outside with Josh Gordon.
Andrew also asks if we play dailies.
Only when there's money in the bank.
I did, and it's a lot of fun, but I don't have the money of those guys that are winning out, week in and week out. You got to remember. Man,
I love daily, but I love daily soccer
you
more than I love daily football.
They are paying tens of thousands of dollars to win hundreds of thousands of dollars, and as much as my bank account loves me, which it does not, I don't have thousands of dollars to throw into it.
You can go with the lottery play. I do it a lot. I put that $4 in there to try to win the million. Haven't won the million yet, otherwise you might not see me. No, I'm kidding. That's probably what I do all the time. It'd probably be 7 days a week.
See you all the time.
Exactly. So, yes, we do love playing daily fantasy for football, but when you're only talking 16 weeks, football is one of the toughest ones. If you were going into this saying, I want to make money playing daily fantasy, I would tell you to play soccer. I would tell you to play hockey. I would tell you to play baseball. Then maybe basketball, and football is like a distant fifth. I think football is one of the hardest sports to play because everyone plays it. There's going to be so many entries. It's going to be very, very randomized. You have to kill daily fantasy in football, but if you want to play, we'll try to help you.
Hey, one time
I play it still. I don't win a lot.
One time for $1 entry, I won $200. I think I got the top 1,000 out of 100,000.
I've won an NBA tournament. I've come in third in a UEFA Champions League tournament in soccer. So if you want to talk about that, we can deep dive into daily with me all day long.
No one wants to talk about that.
Football wise, I've won $20 at a time, but I've never brought down a huge pot in it. But we can discuss again. If you got any advice from me, I'll take it. I'll take all that free advice to the bank. But daily football, again, it's a gamble. If you enjoy it, props to you, but it's almost like playing the lottery because even if you're on a read, there's probably 50 other thousand people on the same read as you.
And they picked that one kicker that was better than your kicker.
That's why we're in the deep dive too, right?
All right, let's go into tight ends. And this was a little bit of a struggle because obviously we all know about, your top 3 receivers where you got Kelsey, you got Ertz, and you got Kittle. What is that one tight end that you believe that can make a huge difference in a receiving?
I'm going to cut you off real quick. Ty says $10 a week ain't bad. I'm with you, Ty. If you got it, throw it out there. You never know. Maybe you hit that million. Also, he says Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs. Both of those guys should be almost every week starters for you.
Ty, yeah.
Did I not say Ty?
You just said and he said.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm retarded.
Anyway. Ty said Stephon Diggs and Cooper Kupp. Both of those guys should almost be every week starters for you. Stephon Diggs has Adam Thielen, so again, it's going to be tough for teams to game plan against him. Cooper Kupp's got 3 or 4 guys around him. Both of those guys are going to succeed week in and week out.
And Ty, you can send $10 to my bank account every week, and I'll give you the exact same outcome.
Andrew says he got his $500 matched when he started, and the whole $1K was gone after a week. See, I put into that when they were doing the matching thing, and then they're like, we'll give you 8 cents at a time. I know you just dropped 100. I don't want to say $180 a week that I'm throwing into daily fantasy. This was last year. I actually think it was the year before that. And magically, I still haven't gotten my free matching bonus all the way cashed out yet. So beware. Read the fine print. That's another caveat.
Who's your tight end sleeper that somebody might be sitting there going on the waiver going, I don't know if I should start him?
My tight end is Delaney Walker this week. And again, he's not the top tight end. He's probably 6 or 7 in the list of tight ends. This week against Cleveland, with Marcus Mariota almost guaranteed to be the starting quarterback for Tennessee, They're going to try to force the ball to him because he is the number one option in this offense. Cleveland doesn't have great cover linebackers, and regardless of whether he succeeds or not, he's going to get a lot of targets as they try to work a guy who missed most of last year, almost all of last year, out. They're going to try to get Delaney involved early and often. Whether it works or not, you shouldn't care because the targets are what you want to see. I think he's going to get 8 or 9 targets this week. I'm sorry. He'll get them this year too. I think he gets 8 or 9 targets this week.
Ty, I do work for your $10 every week. You know what I'm talking about. Don't deny it. Quit shaking your head.
Ty is down on Chris Goodwin, and you can fade our picks if you want. We're not,
but he's up on Delaney Walker. He completely agrees with that. Maybe some of this is not a sleeper. The problem is in the tight end position.
There's not a lot of other tight ends I like. If we're talking daily here, this is going to be the cheapest option that I think love so too. I like George Kittle. Again, Tampa Bay, but it's Tampa Bay. You're going to dunk on Tampa Bay.
George Kittle's probably going to be the third, if not the second highest tight end to be paid for.
Exactly. Or we're going to see Devin White have one of the best rookie showings going up and shutting down a receiver like George Kittle in week 1. It's not going to happen, but it'd be fun if it did.
All right, now we're going to get into stay away from in our fantasy predictions.
Okay, well, real quick, Frank says Doyle from Indy. Let me say this. Yeah, we'll get there. Frank says Doyle from Indy. The one reason I'll say don't bet on Doyle is because you don't know whether it's Eric Ebron or Doyle, because Eric Ebron hasn't had the chance to succeed with Jacoby Brissett.
I will give you this. Doyle has connection with Brissett. If I had to choose an option, it would be Doyle week 1, but I don't think it's going to last all season long. I think Ebron has showed himself a red zone threat and something that the coaches and the Colts organization is going to make a presence is the fact that Ebron can come open in the red zone. I think that both of them will be utilized, but if it's a standardized league where you're trying to get touchdowns, Ebron at some point in time is going to take over.
Yep, and Ty says cheapest for daily-wise anyway will always be Brate. He has been for the last 2 years. I'm all for Cameron Brate. I love Cameron Brate as a player. Again, I think people sleep on him a ton when you talk about his receiving ability. But there's weapons in Tampa Bay. There's a chance this is the week he catches 6 points. I think Delaney is getting 8 or 9 targets regardless. I think the Titans are going to try to reestablish the kingpin of this offense. They're going to try to get him involved early and often in this game. Especially Marcus, who focuses in on his tight end and can only throw to the inside of the field, does not do well. If you're considering anyone, it should be Delaney Walker from the Titans offense. I think Cleveland's going to have a hard time matching up against him. And Tennessee might need to throw. Who knows? Maybe Baker Mayfield comes out and does burn this defense.
Austin says Ebron over Doyle from a performance standpoint. Ebron is a better athlete. I actually got to pump the brakes on that, man. Jack Doyle is a freaking stud. And if he was healthy, he's actually a better tight end than Ebron. I think you really need to go back and watch some of that film. Man, Jack Doyle's not a joke. The problem is the guy can't stay healthy, which matters when fantasy. But Ebron seems to be able to be that taller target in the red zone, which makes him more valuable. But if I was gonna choose hands wise, it would be Jack Doyle. I think he has better hands than Ebron, dude. I honestly fully believe that, Austin.
I think Jack Doyle is a good player, but I think Austin's right. Eric Ebron is the much better athlete here. He's the better option if you took pound for pound the guy, but you got to go with experience here. Jacoby Brissett has played with Jack Doyle and utilized Jack Doyle in the past. I don't think he's had the opportunity to play in a live NFL game with Eric Ebron.
Right.
So for me, I'm going to go Jack Doyle here. But I think Austin's right. If it's pound for pound and we're playing that game where I can have either one of the two, I think Eric Ebron is the more talented guy. I think Jack Doyle is talented, but I'd probably go Eric Ebron from that standpoint. But we're not in that world. We're in the world of you've got to look at the human psychology of this too. I know we're deep diving into daily fantasy here. Jack Doyle has succeeded with Jacoby Brissett throwing him the ball in the past. I think Jack Doyle is going to continue to be the guy that he looks to for the first 4 or 5 weeks. He made a name for himself.
That's what we all said last year when we were drafting tight ends in the Colts organization. We're like, grab Jack Doyle. And this guy proceeded to do well with Brissett. And why wouldn't you take this guy when you saw Ebron fail? I'm going to give it the exact same scenario. Again, like I said, Jack Doyle is a must-start if you have to choose out of the 2 Colts tight ends at the early part of the season. I believe that Ebron will make himself a present in the red zone later on. But if I'm going to sit there and choose which tight end, both staying healthy, by the way, who's going to get more receptions per game, I think it's Jack Doyle. I think he runs a better route. I think he's a better hands reception. But if you're going to sit there and say what's a bigger option in the red zone, then it becomes Ebron for sure.
I disagree, but I don't fault you for thinking that way. I think we're talking like a 55-45 split for me. I think they're both very good options. And that could be tough to bet on in fantasy. Yeah. Real quick, Ty says he likes Njoku this week. A little bit of insight, Ty. Take it from a Titans fan. Jayon Brown is one of the best coverage linebackers in the NFL. He's a budding star in that kind of respect. He's a little weak up front, even though he's getting better at run defense. He's a very good coverage guy. So is Rashad Evans, who's likely to see a lot of work. Wesley Woodyard isn't the worst coverage linebacker either. The Titans have guys that can blanket tight ends. And I think this is receiving.
And they
work.
got the highest paid safety in the league.
And they have. Well, you won't see him on. They do, but you won't see him covering a lot of tight ends this week. I don't think. I think that's going to be more linebacker work. You're going to see Kevin Byard over the top on Odell Beckham more than anything.
He'll still be there.
If anything, again, I'm not wrong. I don't think you're wrong, Ty. I don't think it's a terrible pick, but I think the Titans are set up to defend someone like David Njoku better than a lot of teams are. If I had to pick somebody, it's Jarvis Landry for the Browns, because I think you want to attack whoever Malcolm Butler or Adoree Jackson are covering, because both those guys, even though they can make impact plays, do give up catches. I think you want to stay away from whoever they put Logan Ryan on. And typically they put Logan Ryan on the handsiest or toughest receiver. I think he covers Odell Beckham. I think Jarvis Landry is probably going to face Malcolm Butler more often than not, unless they want to go athleticism and match Butler versus him. In that case, you want Odell. It's a tough pick, but I think I'm going to bet Jarvis Landry for the best receiving options for the Browns this week, even above Njoku, even above Odell Beckham.
We got to get to
Let's go hates.
What we don't like. Do you want to do your hates first, or would you like mine?
Also, Andrew's saying you can bet on Njoku busting off a 40-yard catch. You're right. I mean, you can always bet on Njoku. I think when you're the third or fourth option in this receiving game, it's always a decent bet, regardless of whatever defense you're playing against. I'm just saying I give the Titans a little more credit than a lot of other defenses in the league. They are set up to stop tight ends now, even though they haven't been in the past. Our hates.
You want me to go first or you want to go?
I don't even remember who we wrote, so you're going to go all of them. Again, this is your segment. You're the one who told me we're doing this now every week. I didn't even know that before the show.
Oh, you didn't know?
Now I do.
So who do my people didn't get to your people about this?
They didn't. I must have missed the email. Who do we hate?
Well, if I'm going to choose one part of the games that I think everyone should stay away from fantasy, that's the Bills versus the Jets. I literally think every player on those teams are someone you got to stay away from. Everyone's going to be like, well, of course, Drew, it's the Bills, it's the Jets. Who do you get excited about? I want to pump the brakes just a little bit on that. I'm very huge on Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell is going to have a huge season this year. I think he's worth a first-round pick in every fantasy league, PPR and standard. I just think the Bills have something to prove defensively. They always get kind of put to the side where they're never considered an elite defense, and they're going against a division rival in the Jets. I think every player, regardless of it, obviously you got to start Le'Veon Bell if you draft him in the first round. Every first rounder plays week one unless is injured or isn't playing.
Unless you took Zeke.
Exactly.
Yeah, like me.
You stay away from this game. This game you got to stay away from. Maybe you grab the defenses if you went and grabbed one of these defenses, but in retrospect of all this, you stay away from every starter from these both teams of this game.
For the most part, yeah. There's a chance Josh Allen just busted out, but I hate it too. I think the Jets are going to be set up to try to stop him a little bit. Even though Avery Williamson is out, they just brought in C.J. Mosley, who's going to contain that run a little bit. You're getting an amazing athletic middle linebacker. Right. I think Josh Allen's rushing numbers take a dip week one in this game. As for Le'Veon Bell, he's going to be running against one of the toughest defenses. If you have a stacked running back room, I wouldn't hate it if you bench him. I think Le'Veon Bell is going to be an above-average running back this year. I don't think he's going to warrant that top 5 pick you probably spent to go get him. You're higher on Le'Veon Bell than I am. Right. I think the Jets are going to struggle a little bit because he's the only option, and Buffalo's going to start that off because that defense is as stout as it is. I get it. He's got a point to prove. He's going to be fresh, but this is not the week, I think, to lean on Le'Veon Bell. This is a tough matchup. I don't like anyone in this group because I think this is going to be a defensive struggle here.
Right. And
I don't even like the defenses. I don't think they're going to take the ball away too much. I think both of these teams stay really conservative.
Now, because you can't remember, you chose the team to stay away from is the Packers versus the Bears. You say all offensive weapons and quarterback in the Packers organization.
Don't touch the Packers this week, okay? I don't care that it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't care that it's Devontae Adams. I don't care whether it's Aaron Jones. We're benching Aaron Jones, and he was supposed to be our second running back this week. Do not play a Packer this week. The Bears are going to maul him. Okay? Last year, we saw them kind of squeak out that Thursday night game. I believe it was before Khalil Mack started with the Bears. I think they traded for him right before it. He didn't really play, or he didn't play in a full capacity. This year, they're going to be. The Packers are not significantly improved in the offensive line. Don't start a Packer. This is going to be... I'm predicting the Bears to win this one pretty handily. We're going to talk about that in just a second, but I think the Bears are going to win this one, and the defense is going to roll on an offense that has weapons. But, I mean, come on, this is the best defense in football. Yeah. Maybe second behind Jacksonville. This is a team full of killers. Stay away from starting any Packer this week.
Let's go into it. Thursday Night Football. Finally, the NFL starts. I'm so excited about this, guys. I literally just get joy and excitement about what's about to happen. The 2019 season NFL season starts week 1, Thursday night. Packers versus the Bears
again.
This is
I'm disappointed. Come on,
I love this matchup. I don't care.
I love the game.
I love this matchup.
Make it Sunday night. Rotate it a little bit.
I actually thought it was prime time, like outside Thursday, but I forgot.
It was the first game last year. It's the first game this year. Pass it up. I'm gonna go rapid fire in these comments. Also, Ty says Singletary. They ain't ready for him. You know who Singletary isn't ready for? C.J. Mosley. Okay, C.J. Mosley's going to be ready for a rookie running back. I think he's going to be ready for him. Andrew says the Bills' defense should show out this week. 100% with you. Ty, C.J. Mosley went to the Jets. He was going to be their third linebacker. Then Avery Williams got hurt, and Darren Lee got traded. So now it's just his linebacking core here in the middle. Also, Frank's all in on the Bears. I'm 100% with you. Andrew's saying Sunday night will be more of a blowout than Thursday. I don't even know who the Sunday night game is because we're all about Thursday night football right now.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go with him, and I don't even know what Sunday night is. I actually think Thursday night is going to be a very close game. I think the Packers and the Bears are going to struggle this game. I love the fact it's the first game of the year. I don't care if it's a repeat. It makes absolutely no difference to me. I'm just excited that the NFL game is back on my television. I get a chance to watch this game. I'm still picking the Bears. I think the Bears can win this game, but I think it's going to be a lot closer. I'm thinking it's going to be, 1 point difference. We don't like picking points here, but if I had an option, maybe like
you don't like picking points. I'll do points all day long.
Maybe like 24-21. It's going to be maybe a field goal of a difference, but I believe the Bears will have the opportunity to win this game.
Also, Ty says it's still week 1, and I'll keep it to the comments about this game, Drew, because I know you're ready to go. He says it's still week 1. He believes that all the Bears D starters haven't played any in the preseason. You never know what could happen aside from the Mack attack. Well, first off, you're right. You can always bet on Khalil Mack. Second, I will say this. They are one of the most complete and cohesive defenses in the game right now. I think the only change is Clinton Dix, a decent player in his own right. Coming in for Adrian Amos, was it?
Yes.
That left to Green Bay. So there's going to be a little bit of a revenge factor there. They have 10 other guys that are used to playing with each other. Watch for the Bears to absolutely come out and just feast on this Green Bay team that still is weak in the offensive line. Aaron Jones, even though I like him, still isn't a star running back in the league by any means. It's all about Davante Adams. If Davante Adams can roast the secondary, which is still the weakest part of the Bears defense, then maybe we see a competitive game. But I don't see this Packers defense, which is now new and trying to get used to each other, stacking up well against a team with a great offensive line like Chicago and receiving weapons like Allen Robinson that now have chemistry with their quarterback. This is Bears all the way for me. If I had to pick points, I'm going to say 31-10. I know we don't do points, but I think the Bears are going to get out in front in this one. They'll coast a little bit. We'll see the Packers get back into it maybe, and then the Bears close it out with a touchdown or two to really kind of stick the needle into them. Right. I know last year we saw Randall Cobb play some heroics, but guess who's not there this year? Randall Cobb. I don't think it's Equanimeous St. Brown, even though he's hurt. I don't think it's Valdez-Scantling that has that kind of talent. The Bears are winning this one this year.
Andrew says he got the Pack by 4, 26-22. As a show, we pick the Bears. As individuals, we pick the Bears. We believe that's who's going to win it. Yep, we absolutely are. Guys, I appreciate all the comments, likes, and shares. It means the world to us for you to join us this evening. I do have to move on and go on for tomorrow. And, guys, I don't want to shorten any Tuesday night shows, but we have to call it quits now. It's just something we got to do.
It was a great show. The Pack aren't winning this one by 4. If they win, it's going to be by 1 or 2. I'm going to take them less than a field goal. 4 is rather generous. I don't care if it's in Lambeau or not. This one, I think, is Chicago's game to lose. I think the Bears are going to win this one. That being said, they got a lot of cohesion. We're not going to stick on it, Drew. We'll keep moving. Guys, fantastic show. Obviously, we both had a lot of fun. Great comments. Guys, really intuitive, too. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw a lot of great comments that made me think. And when I get that, I'm like, maybe I'm not in the right spot, but I'm still going Bears. You can't get me off it. I'm still going Bears.
But we do want to give a special shout out to all the guys that commented, and if I miss you, I'm so sorry. I try to write your name down as soon as I see it. But Ian, James, Will, Scott, Austin, Zeka, Chris, Cody, Shay, Josh, Perry, DeHarry, or Hardy.
Hardy. I think.
Hardy.
I think it's Hardy.
I'll go with Hardy. Bees, Andrew, Bo, Ty, Frank. You guys are all awesome. Thank you so much, and all the love you guys give to us. It's the reason why we do this week in and week out, every other day. It means the world to us to see you
Yes.
guys here with us,
Yes.
and we love it.
Also, I'm doing one more comment. You can't stop me, Drew. I'm driving the dagger through Andrew's heart here. He says the Bears' run game are going to have to preserve a lead. He doesn't know if a rookie or Cohen can handle that, but as non-Packers or Bears fan, he's looking forward to the game either way. They have Mike Davis, who was a fantastic grind-him-out guy for the Seahawks last year. They have the veteran. If it's not working with the rookie in Montgomery, they can go with the seasoned hand in Mike Davis, who is going to be in this offense at least a little bit. I think the Packers have a lot to worry about, especially with Mike Daniels now sitting on the Lions instead. There's nobody in the middle that scares me for Green Bay. No linebackers, no D tackles. Look for Chicago to go up the gut more this game than in a lot of other ones. I expect this game's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be fun to watch, but I'm going to take Chicago by, I don't want to say landslide, but it's going to be a healthy lead.
You said 31-10.
I did. Healthy lead. And what did I say? Chicago early. Packers catch up. Don't quite get there. Bears close it out.
Austin, you have a good night too. Ty, we will get our beauty rest. Trust me, this face didn't happen off 4 hours of sleep.
That's not a coincidence. Yes.
And Andrew, it's good to see you guys. It was awesome. Sports Around the Bar. This is it. Thank you so much, and we'll see you.
Also, I said Bears 31-10. We're getting out of here. We'll be back Wednesday, tomorrow, to talk college football. We hope to see you then, guys. It's been great. I can't wait to see you. I always do that. Then you say see you. So we will see you on Wednesday.